So it is now my privilege to introduce you to Meera Spillett. And she is an experienced leader, over 40 years of experiences in social care. I think that deserves a round of applause for the applause. She's a former director of Children's Services and HMI for the London region, a core lead for the Leadership in Colour programme. She delivers cultural competence training and supports the Black and Asian Leadership Initiative. She's also an author, an advocate, a cancer survivor. Meera actively contributes to various advisory groups emphasising anti-racism and cultural competency, with her qualifications including an BA in Business and Public Sector Strategy. Meera is also a director of her own company. Meera Spillett is a trailblazer in social work and children's services, and has been rewarded the prestigious Lifetime Achievement Award Gold in Social Worker of the Year Award 2023. Woo! And that was her role in launching the Black and Asian Leadership Initiative called Bali with the Staff College. Bali has been instrumental in helping numerous Black and Asian leaders overcome organisational barriers. So please let me welcome Meera to come up, and I'm looking forward to listening to her talk. Yeah. I think if you, it's enough. I think the camera also leads here, so you can lift this. Yeah.
Can you
check that you can see Meera? It comes down, don't worry.
Birthing skills are not great. Right.
We're gonna.
Yeah. Do I need really long arms to change the slides, or
I can change it for you. Do you want me to change it for you? Yeah, absolutely fine.
Right. I hope you can see me online. Hello, Oxfordshire. I could see you around the table. So that's lovely, and there's some people from Bali. So that's lovely too. Okay. Right.
You just tell me when.
Yeah, I had a feeling I wouldn't be able to see my slides, so I printed them off.
Across the world.
Who that is?
Could you just
got a guest?
Yeah.
If you're online, could you mute yourself? That'd be great. I didn't know I'd be saying that. Can you hear me at the back? Yes, jolly good. Right, fantastic. And someone's going to wave at me when I've spoken too long. So once I get going, I get going. Firstly, thank you so much for inviting me. I am absolutely delighted to be here and looking at all the lovely faces smiling back at me on a Monday morning for you. So I am going to just start with yeah.
Shall I go? No.
I'll do it.
You do it. Yes.
So there's a lot going on in the world, and for me this is just such a thing to think about, with the people and what's happening to people all over the world at the moment. And it is about a Martin Luther King Jr. quotation. Just brings us back to hate cannot drive out hate, only love can. So we situate ourselves in a difficult position globally at the moment, but let's hope things come from that. So the next slide is me just telling you what I'm going to tell you about. So we're going to do like celebrate, collaborate, look at career, and finally look at care and you and self-care. All the things I've learned in my 40 year, and I did start extremely young, if I can just underline that. So you'll hear that in a moment. So we'll do that, but I was going to tell you a little bit about my journey. So if we move to the next slide, and you might have to click something, because I think one photo is missing. Oh, it's missing. Oh, there was a little photo of me as a little girl. And it's gone. Never mind. yes, never mind. I've been cancelled on a Monday. Fancy that. So there was this little girl that was supposed to be in that one, and then there's me. And you can see how highbrow I am with my kind of who I quote. This is the Zen of Kung Fu Panda. Because it is a great quote. Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That is why we call it the present. So yeah, so I don't always talk about highbrow things because my life didn't start in that way. So when I was born, unfortunately, I was taken away from my mother on a place of safety order, which is really old legislation that some of you may still remember. I have every bit of love for my birth mother, who, all I can say is she was a teenager that went through things that teenagers shouldn't go through. So I just send universal love to her wherever she is, and I hope she found a lovely family and is happy. So I started in care of Kent County Council, so where it says from KCC to OCC, and I haven't ever met the person that named me Meera. It does mean princess, just so you know. But yeah, I've never met the person who named me Meera. And one day, actually, when I was a HMI inspector, Kent County Council lost my file. And they found it years later when I was an inspector, and they were so scared they got Bernardo's to do it. To show me my file. And when I saw my file, all I saw was pages and pages of rejection. No, we can't place an Indian child. No, we haven't got a place. I literally had a whole load of no's. And it just still didn't tell me who my foster carers were that gave me the name. And I still don't know who they are because it didn't have that in it. Luckily for me, I went to a second foster carer who they decided they'd adopt me. So I have a wonderful family. So it's a mix of Jewish, Indian, Sikh. Basically, it means we eat a lot. Yeah. You come over my threshold, you eat. And it's not great if you're in a wheelchair and you can't run it off. But it's a beautiful household that I'm in. And so I kind of started life with a social worker, and social work was in my blood. I think I wanted to be a social worker from when I was an early age, and actually age 16, so that please allows me to be the 40 years. At the age of 16, I started volunteering for a local children's home. And then in the next year, when I was 17, Kent County Council actually gave me a job as a care worker in the children's home. So the OCC was kind of a little circle was brought back together again. And then I went off to Devon, and I was there for a decade. I qualified as a social worker, and I thought I could hear myself. I qualified as a social worker, did my degree, and I ended up staying in the West Country for a decade. It was one of the most racist places I've ever worked. And you knew it when you were walking down the high street in Plymouth and you smiled at anyone that looked like you, and they smiled back. And we had the CRE, the Race Equality Council, did a report, No Problem Here, it was called. I mean, we could have that report today and we'd still kind of be where it is. So I've been someone that has had absolutely staunchly looking at anti-racist, anti-oppressive. We used to talk about those terms and suddenly they went away. And at the moment, there's another lot of people trying to not say racism exists, but we know it does. So I ended up being, at the age of 25, Devon County Council's first ever Black Asian person that had been in that role. So that was in the community care, little tiny print. And so I've always felt as though I wanted to climb through I wanted to get to the place where I could actually make the most difference to the most people. So I carried my career, and we'll talk about that, but mine was very intentional. Yeah. So I thought, what is it I need to know? Where can I get it? Who can I speak to? And off I go. And it was one of the reasons that later in my career, I joined the HMI in London, because I could see loads of authorities and what they were like and how good they were and what I would do differently. So I have worked across, I've had the privilege of working across the parts of England. I've worked in Norfolk, I've worked in Southend, I've worked in London, and I finished my career in Oxfordshire County Council. If you move the next slide, that'd be great. Sure. One of the things that happened to me was a label. So I was labelled as remedial, which is the end of, we call it special educational need now. And basically people didn't think I was going to amount to much. My family did, but my teachers not. And I think however long ago you went to school, you can probably remember the name of one really good teacher and one really not so good teacher. So one teacher made the difference to me, and that got me going into the plan, and then off I went. But it wasn't until I was I was actually working for Kent again at that point, and I went to do my MA. And when I passed my MA, I actually thought, oh, maybe I'm not remedial. So one of the things I'm always clear about is that when we label people, it's like it can burn your soul. The label can burn your soul. And whatever we do in our practice, we've got to think about how easy it is to label someone, and then think about how hard it is to take those labels off in later life. And we get labelled because of our colour, our skin, because I'm in a wheelchair. I have had an attack with someone in my wheelchair, which was awful. And I thought they were going to be racist, but they were actually ableist. So, mind you, I could have run them over. Thought better not. So that's a little snippet of my story. I mean, there'll be more as we go through the C's, but for me, I always wanted to help the most amount of people, and I became disabled when I was in Norfolk as a deputy director. I became disabled overnight. So one day I was going upstairs to my flat, and then the next day I never saw my flat again because I couldn't go upstairs. I had acute onset of rheumatoid arthritis, and I now have a hobby of collecting long-term health conditions. I have 7 of them. I had 8 when I had the breast cancer, so it's down. That's good. And my ringtone is the one from the Fabulous 6. What 7 was it? Oh, I've got aphasia as well, so I forgot to tell you that. The Magnificent 7. So that is my ringtone. So I embrace what I've got, and I love the world, and I love every day. And it's a bit like the Kung Fu Panda thing. I do literally do a lot of mindfulness every day because I'm really lucky to be here. So I've also been writing stuff. So if we could go to the next slide, thank you. It's very awful having to make you go to the next slide. I didn't put my QR code on here, but I will have my phone ready later in the break. I've just written my another thing, which is anti-racist systems leaders needing to see systemic racism. It's a real read. And when I was at the House of Commons last week, I had the QR code, and every single Tory minister and other minister that I saw, I went, there's photos of them doing that. And there's photos of the minister going, yeah, okay, yeah, won't. Yeah, I think it's something to do with the wheelchair. They kind of go, oh yes, we'll do anything. But But in it has a kind of look across the public sector, because as social workers, you're going to be working, yes, in your organisation, but you're going to be working with partners. And one of the things that you can use to kind of have that group, and I'll talk about a council of elders that you need to have when you're in this work, especially from diaspora, is actually it's the same across the public sector. So these two slides just look at kind of social care leadership. I mean, when I was a director of children's services in Oxfordshire, I finally said it, Oxfordshire, that I was one of 5 out of 150. It's not very many. And when you look at the figures now, they're not that great, but they've improved a bit. However, more improvement is needed. Maybe I could slap them with a remedial tag. We know that global majority people are overrepresented in grievances, are overrepresented in having their probationary periods cut off, overrepresented in every aspect that is negative compared to their white peers. And we know this happens in the NHS as well, and it's why myself and Tricia were so part of the social care race equality standards, and you know, unfortunately we couldn't get the ministers to actually back it in the way that have the NHS, but that doesn't mean we've finished fighting yet. The next slide is around education. So 92.5% of head teachers are white. We look at the police, we look at fire rescue. You'll get all the slides for this, so, you know, you'll get them, so I'm just picking out a few bits for time's sake. We know that you know, there are very few senior police officers above the rank of chief inspector. We know from the Casey review the disproportionality again of black or minoritized groups going through you know, misconduct allegations. It's just awful. It seeps in through every single one of our partners. And then we have the judiciary, the people who decide when someone has an adult has a mental health condition. We know they're likely to go down a criminal route. They're not likely going to get the CBT that their white peers will get. So it's important that we have a judiciary that looks like us, but we don't, because you know, there is very few people at the top of the judiciary who are driving some of this together. And when you think about, for them, intersectionality, you know, a huge issue. You know, barristers are not getting appointed if they're female and black, basically. So those are some of the things that, as leaders, so you need to be thinking as leaders with other people around the table about how you're going to, what you've got in common here, so what you can fight and what you can change. So the next slide is a load of waving people, which is Bali. So when unfortunately, I mean, I loved being director of children's services in Oxfordshire, loved it, absolutely loved it. Went round to kids, told them I couldn't add up, and I had a £500 million budget. It was all good. And some of the areas in Oxford are deprived, and they are where the global majority are. So some of the faces were amazing to see that, you know, I could still do it. I did an accountancy bit in my MA, but asked me to add up things just off the piece and I won't be able to do it. But it was brilliant and I loved the job. It was about 80 hours a week. There were all sorts going on. And finally, my body just said, nah, not going to do that. So unfortunately, I had to take ill health retirement from Oxfordshire. But social work is in me. So I had to do something. And with my wonderful Jamaican sister, Rosemary Campbell-Stevens, and the late white colleague, Patrick Scott, we developed the Black and Asian Leadership Initiative, Bali. And we've had conversations about, are you waving at me yet? Have I got time? Okay, start waving. Oh, fine, I'm going quick. So we thought, what do we call ourselves? And actually we call ourselves Bali because who wouldn't want to be in Bali? But we so we haven't changed it because like we talk global majority now, mainly, but we've gone back and said no, we won't change it. So it's still Bali, and we introduced that, and it is for all global majority leaders or aspiring leaders, and it's a program that we've kept the price on it right down. And in fact, I'm not taking any money today other than me petrol. And thank you. You're going to make a donation to the Bali Fund, because some people find their organisation doesn't want to pay for that. So Bali is about recognising our true worth, our true amazing abilities that we bring to the world that are often overlooked and underestimated, that are often seen in a negative way, not a positive way. Yeah, and that was the alumni where I passed over to a new generation of global majority leaders who have now taken the Bali program, and I'm really now retired. Let me get on to a few bits. Yeah, the next one. So look, one of the things we talk about in Bali right at the first is what it is to be human. What is it? What does it mean us to be human? There's a lot of dehumanizing going on, so we need to be really strong and be grounded on all of these areas. So this is from Naeem Akbar, Know Thyself. He's a psychologist, he's an educator, and he's an author. And to keep grounded, think about ourselves in these ways. So the physical is our body. Well, clearly mine's not having a good day most days, but I'm balanced within my body. I have my intellectual bit, so that's my mind, my soul. Mind and soul are so connected. Then I have my spiritual, and it doesn't mean religious, but it means there's something and I need it in me. There are maybe just those emotions that you feel that are there that are spiritual. You then have the ancestral, who you came from, who came before us. And we're going to talk about Sankofa briefly in a while, and that is important. We need to know who we came from. Even though I can't see my birth mother, I still have that as part of my ancestral. And then you have the tribal, the people you might be with today, sitting around a table, or you might sit with regularly. And it's about closeness, it's about belonging, and it's about culture. And then all of those bring us, if we think about ourselves on a Monday, how am I doing here? How do I feel in here? How do I feel in here? It's about maintaining your self-worth, the autonomy that you have, the liberation that thinking in this way brings. We can resist dehumanization with this. We can actually cultivate an abundance mentality. So if you write anything down, right, I want an abundance mentality, and that's where you're coming from if you're thinking about yourself as the whole person. So let's celebrate. We're going for the next slide. So some just kind of real quick things for you. Know your strengths and celebrate them. Add value. The biggest change you can make when you talk to people is to stop and replace any but that you're going to say into an and. Little tiny change makes a huge difference. It can make a difference to parents, the way you talk to people, but it can make a difference for you if you're trying to get up and every time on the kind of screen everybody's ignoring you, and all you then do is say, I agree with what Tricia had to say, and then you just take it in a different direction because you own it then. Yeah, so just remember that's a teeny little thing, and it'd always be good with you, Tricia. I would just literally talking about him. So recognise and celebrate good practice, good people, say hello to people. I love it. Keep a journal. If you haven't got a journal now, go and get one. You can get a fancy one or like a not fancy one, but use it every day. Even if you can only just write one sentence. I met Meera, or oh my God. What was she on? Did she have breakfast? I'll have that. Practice appreciative inquiry. When I went to Oxfordshire, I asked 2 questions. What do we do well? And what could we do better? Takes you in a different space. So there's loads on Cooper Rider. Look it up. Don't need to buy anything. Don't buy anything. In fact, get it off the website. He's got a great website. Next slide, sorry. Remember the added value that we bring. Inclusive and diverse teams, the business case, right? There's a huge business case for us. You get better, if you get better diversity, you get better decision making, you get innovation. You actually multiply what you're looking at and you can change. You're giving me 10 minutes, that's great. I'm going to move on. So don't forget the added value and the business case that you have. Now we're going to go on to collaborate. So have a network. This network is great and well done for Sid for getting it together, but really, really use them, have them. I didn't at one point. I had some racist materials put on my desk when I was a very senior manager, and I was just taken aback. And I actually didn't speak to the people that I should have spoken to, my council of elders, because I was so shocked that actually someone had gone through locked doors, and they went, "Oh, it's probably the cleaner." I knew it wasn't the cleaner, and it was a very top ranking person that left it on my. But we got a secret camera, so. So yeah, basically share good practice, connect to some global leadership, and that's what I'm really going to race through now, because you will get these, but just wanted to. Yes, thank you. And then we're going to talk about Ubuntu, Savor, Maori, and Sankofa. And there are others. I was looking at the one from Hong Kong. Couldn't do that today, but I'm sure you can look it up. So we'll go straight on to the next one, the Ubuntu. So what you'll see about these is just one slide each, and you will see the what does it mean to be human bit that I've talked about right into these. Not Western leadership paradigms, global leadership paradigms that give us something different, and in these times could give us something different. So Ubuntu, of course, the Archbishop Desmond Tutu, very esteemed, still has this wonderful catalogue of amazing wisdom. That's what he talks about in terms of Ubuntu: open, affirming, where everyone is looking after the belonging of people and no one is diminished, because if one person is diminished, then we are all diminished. There are about 7 dimensions for Ubuntu. So it's about having interdependence, having a close affinity, actually feeling and seeing with our heart. We're people orientated and bringing that humanity in with us. So not dehumanizing people with labels. We have a vision and a purpose with Ubuntu, and it looks at improving performance. And it definitely is scaffolds ethical practice. Next one, because I'm going over time, I'm just going to be quick, is Savor. Savor is a Sanskrit word, and it is based on selfless service. And it's a really, again, holistic approach. But what I love about this one is that it has critical analysis of context. So we can say, why doesn't anybody in a particular party want to say racism? They don't want to see it, believe it, or see it, or say it. We can get at that complex issue through Savor. it is about having moral courage to be able to say those things. And when I accosted the healthcare minister last week, it went very well, because I had my new thing that had just come out. I've got a QR code, which I forgot to send you, but I've sent it you now, that you can literally download the publication from research and practice that I've done. And I made him do it. In fact, I made all of the Tory people that were in the room do it, and the Labour ones. So Savour is there. It's got 5 dimensions: setting goals, self-study. We need to know who we are, be who we are, synergy, service, and surrender, and actually go with it, which a lot of Western paradigms just don't quite do that. I'm going to go on for Maori. I'm going for a quick final stretch. I love Maori. We got the family group conferencing from the Maoris. I cannot say the words. I'm going to be very honest. I'm just going to talk it in English, even though I've got someone in New Zealand that's been trying to teach me. Again, it's this humanity. It pours out. Where is it in our ones? In the West, where we are, we don't say human. Do we humanistic in ours? Altruism, others, thinking and gathering, guardianship, and that's not just about the environment, it's about the guardianship of how people are treated, and cultural authenticity, being who we are and getting other people to understand who we are. So there's lots there in terms of, again, another potential one that you can explore. And final one is going to be Sankofa. Has anyone heard of Sankofa? Yeah, okay. So it's a mythical bird, and it's got its feet planted one way and its head planted another. Because the idea is that you learn from what was, bring it through to now, and bring the good things through to now. And it's a nice way of looking at quest for knowledge, you know. And I would say, if you want to be a direct, you need to read everything. You need to learn loads. I'm learning every day. Take the wisdom from the past. But again, it's got critical examination of the context, intelligent and patient and investigatory, so curious, all the things that we have around us. And then that past that's guiding us into a future. So for me, when I think about that and racism, we don't want racism slipping back to where we were. We need to continue to look over and see what's happened and carry on. And yes, there is institutional racism in this country. And I would stand next to Rishi Sunak and tell him that if I had an opportunity. Okay, career. And I'm nearly there. Oh, yes, definitely. Career. So every path is unique. Yeah, so your path is not going to be like mine. I just looked at the job above me that I wanted, and I looked at all the skills and things that it said I needed, and then I went off and got them. So just, you can be that intentional, or you can just go, I feel it's right, I'll go here. There's no right or wrong way. Find a mentor, a sponsor, or an accomplice, or and an accomplice. Because I've gone past the ally stuff. We're now at accomplice. I need someone to have my back, and I need someone to be there. I don't want you across the side of there when I need you here. So we're going to accomplice now, quite frankly, I'm there. Join free things. Bali, most Wednesdays of the month, they have a free thing. If you go on the staff college, you can register, and you'll have lots of conversations. And sometimes I used to do it, but I'm now retired, so I come along now and again. So I'm sure, and I look forward to seeing you there. And just go for the role. I mean, they're not going to just knock on your door and say, do you want the role? Well, you have to actually apply. And don't worry about you're not meeting everything. There's something about us that we think, right, I haven't got that. Go with it. The only answer you can get is no. And then just learn and just carry on. You know, we need to be sharp, because the ceiling above us is still quite hard, but we can get through it. How am I doing? I've got like 1 minute left. Oh, 5 minutes. Oh, good. Okay, right, we're going to go to the next one. This is just a quickie, because this is what will happen you know, absolutely go up there, be a director, absolutely fantastic, change lives on a big scale. But what will happen to you, you just need to be prepared, right? Be prepared for this. So on the right hand side, that's what everybody has. On the left hand side, this is what you're. So you'll have people like they've said to me, she was only appointed because she's disabled and she's that. So you'll have those responses that will say, well, you know, she's a diversity pick. We've got to have diversity. Then you'll see the anticipation and hope of all the Black people in your organisation, people who look like you, and they'll go, oh, Meera's going to sort the racism out that I've had for the last 10 years. So that comes because people will genuinely go, oh, we have someone who looks like us. You will then have the same from your Black communities. I was once approached by someone who should have been planning, but you know, politicians can come in anywhere they want. And they worked out I was Sikh, and they worked out that they didn't get the planning permission for the Gurdwara, so I could sort it out, couldn't I? So you'll get stuff like that. And there, of course, will be who will lead the equalities, and all heads will go to you. And you need to be prepared. You need to have the strategies, and that's what Bali does. It helps you with the strategies to kind of get through these. And you'll be like family expectations as well. You know, you might be the first one. You might have your mum saying, "No, don't do that. It's horrible. They're going to be horrible to you." And so you just need to keep that together with your council of elders. So finally, I'm getting there. Finally, got a couple more to do. Is that all right? So, oh,
No,
it's there. No, yeah, that's fine. I'm not paying attention to my own slides, sorry. So this is care. This is about for you. You need to do some self-care. Always do some self-care. Please turn your work phones off when you're not working. Please have breaks. Go out, sit on a bench, do some mindfulness, listen to the birds or people shouting. Let it wash over you. So be kind to yourself. Understand your triggers. So if someone said something, what would trigger you? Because if you understand your triggers, lovely phone, very, very relaxing. If someone gets you, you need to know your triggers first. So actually when someone says, oh, well, non-white people, I just go, because it's not the right way to, you know, but I've kind of learned not to quite do that. And I did reflect back to the DFE when they were using it. Actually, it's not the right way to use it, because I wouldn't refer to you as non-Black. And they kind of got it. So just what your triggers are, they'll all be different. And, you know, absolutely mindfulness, work-life balance. I had no work-life balance at all. I did 80 blooming hours because I love the job, and then it knackered me out, so I couldn't do anything else. So just learn from me, do a bit of balance. I was just so excited. If you have a feeling that something is not right, don't ignore it. It's the biggest thing that your gut will tell you, so don't stop listening. So it's that going back to that one body. You need to think about what is connecting, and if it's not right, it's not right, and you need to find a way. And be an ethical witness. So next slide, thank you. You've done so well. This is a model that I talk about in the book, well, not a book, publication, and I would recommend it to you, and I've given you the kind of link to read it. We have a problem, and we need to kind of get people noticing racism. So witnessing and passive witnessing. What happens is something's been said in a room, there's some racist stuff said, half of the white people will go like that and just get on with something that they were doing. Some will look a bit uncomfortable. Very few people will say anything, but they might come and see you afterwards and say, I don't think that was very good. So that's kind of those top two. But we need people who are going to be active, and actually you can be active, because you need to understand when someone's being racist to you. because sometimes we don't. We just like suck it in into our pores, and then we start believing some of this stuff. So you need to this. So they did a bit of research is from Black Lives Matter, and they did this research with them about how they had their resilience. So do read the article. But we want to get people to this one, where you're getting into socially just action, you're taking concrete action, you've got awareness, education, empowering, and taking it to the next level. So next slide is just me going, that's my new book, and you will get all these links. These are things I've written before, that all my publications are free to download, so go for it. There's then references and resources, next one, just do a nice roll. So roll that. There's left you with that, and I'm going to leave you with this. To be a great leader, one must never give up, try to bring people together, and be selfless. Thank you very much.
Right. What can I say apart from thank you very much for both of your inspiring talks. Absolutely enjoyed it. And I didn't want to stop you there. But now we do have 10 minutes of questioning and answers. I've got some questions, but I would really like to welcome everybody online and here to ask questions and comments, anything that you want to say. This is the opportunity for online if you want to raise your hand, and then I will negotiate kind of but if you want to type your question, that's totally fine as well. Obviously not for the people in the room, so please say them. Rather than type them, because then I have to read them. I think that would be quite complicated. So thank you very much again for the talks. Do we have any questions online? Do we have, come up to the stage.
Trying to avoid coming.
Got a question over there.
Yes,
Please.
I've also done my done a bit of training in Brunel University, my social work training. So that same experience of you seeing someone and rushing up to them. They was just at the theatre, so I couldn't make friends with them, but you know, I said hello.
brief moments you had happiness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Experience. I just wanted to know how fighting. I'm a leader in NHS, and when you are experiencing systemic discrimination at each angle and experiencing microaggressions from other directors and leaders, how do you just keep going?
Well, I think it's really important that you recognise when it's happening, because again, quite a few people we see when they come to Bali have kind of internalised some of this. So I almost imagine a kind of a thing around me that no one can get in if they're going to be racist. I tend to talk back to people, but I can be quite nice when I'm doing it. So I do challenge people, and it depends kind of on the gauge of where I think I need to challenge. I often do it's interesting what you just said. Can you tell me what that's about? Silence. And as a social worker, silence is a really important thing. But I find it really helpful when you've got someone who's being really racist to just throw the question back to them and say, I'm really interested in what you just said. Could you elaborate? Silence. And then you'll see them squirm, and they'll just like that because they won't know. And then that's made its point. I suppose it's different ways of challenging people depending on who they are, and I just think I have always remained with a positive core. So that, you know, the beginning bit, Naim Akbar, you've got to keep that with you to stop those things happening. And sometimes I leave it. Sometimes I will get a white ally to challenge it and say, "Good, did you hear that?" And maybe they can have a bit more impact. So different ways, there's no one way, but sometimes just throwing the question back. If you're stumped by something, the easiest thing to do is just throw the question back and say, that's really interesting, can you tell me a bit more about it? And then they'll just squirm.
Very, very similar, Meera. So my professional background is sensory social work, so working with deaf and deafblind, and at the time generic children and adults. And I don't know whether it's because of that, I've always found myself as being maybe the only one or two or three. And looking back, actually, I'm surprised at how I've managed to survive and to continue going. And at Skills for Care, I was the only black director, I think probably the only one they've ever employed, maybe.
Never will.
So how do I keep going? I have my network of friends and cheerleaders, because at times I need to sense check. And I need to just run things past people, and that's within the organisation and outside of the organisation, and just run it past, because you can end up internalising things as well and thinking that it must be me. And even when you know blatantly. What did I do about it? In 2018, I joined a meeting that was looking at the scoping of workforce race equality standards in social care and whether it was feasible or not. And I thought, I want to be part of that, because I want to shape that for everybody and hold people to account. So that's what I did.
Well,
And
basically, we're both tough nuts when it comes to you've got to, but knowing what's going to come is quite helpful.
Yes,
because you know you're going to get it. That triangle is always going to happen as you go up. If you're ready for it, you're ready to.
Sorry, but last year there was a leadership review of health and social care. It's known as the Messenger Leadership Review, but it was Sir General Gordon Messenger and Dame Linda Pollard, and it looks at leaders, as I've said, in health and social care, and we pulled together a round table that fed into that. There's a recommendation to focuses primarily on equality, diversity and inclusion, and the accountability of current leaders and managers within health and within social care, and it's holding them to account, and it's looking at enhancing the powers of CQC to be able to hold leaders and managers to account, and that's some of the work that we've been involved in. So we're using our lived experience to try and influence policy to be able to put those benchmarks in place so that people do have the ability to challenge, because the guidance and the policy is there.
Thank you very much. We've got another question.
For someone who's just starting out and you have little to none support, how do you navigate? How do you navigate in terms of the practice and taking care of yourselves? How do you build, I guess, your allyship or your support, your cheerleaders, as you talk about? Because sometimes it can get really dark if you have no one and you're going against something that's completely already established, has deep roots.
Yes.
So you can't do this alone. So what would you have?
Can I just repeat the questions for those online? Sorry, before you jump in and respond. So the question is for kind of skills and strategies, kind of as you're starting on early on to build your allyship, I suppose, those who are around you, your cheerleaders. What would you say? How you do that early on?
So Skills for Care run the ASYE, so the Assessed and Supported Year in Employment for all newly qualified social workers, whether you're adults or children and families. And when I was there, we developed, it's called GEMS. It's a specific network for newly qualified social workers who identifies coming from an ethnically minoritized background. And that's specifically at the request of some of the questions that we were getting. How do newly qualified social workers build their networks and find like-minded people for support? So there is the GEMS network, and it is funded by the department and funded by the DFE as well. So there are formal networks, but I guess it's knowing where those networks are. BASWA has networks. There are professional networks, so research and practice will have networks. But for every newly qualified social worker and assessors as well, Skills for Care have a specific dedicated network.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I'm just thinking maybe for all those online and for everybody, we'll put that, if you could give us those links, then we can put them in the chat, but also send them out afterwards.
Yeah. And just go and it's interesting. Many of our white colleagues are much better at networking than we are. So start networking as soon as you get there. You know, take a cup of coffee with someone or talk about someone and build the rapport with them, and then you start to get your. But think about this network here. Think about the people here that you could actually make contact with as well. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions in the room or online?
One last question.
One last question.
Time. No, we have
We
time.
would have time for one last question.
Ask me that.
Yeah.
So, you're doing a brilliant job, and work is in terms of different cultures, people from
Yes.
different cultures growing up. Some of the feedback I've had is a culture of not speaking up or not showing up ourselves.
Yeah.
And feeling we can't do that. It's a big barrier. And that's the culture we learned, and and we allow people to speak. Yes, by the time people speak, they've lost the chance. So that's a big issue. I don't know whether that's, how do we help people from different cultures who are struggling with that issue? Because that's an issue of being able to present yourself, which I don't think social work education helps us with, or any. So there's a cultural implication there. So that's a very key thing people are saying. So I just thought, any thoughts about that?
So the question is about your culture in which you come from, about not speaking up, how that feeds in, and what you would say to that, how we can create a better environment.
That's a really interesting question, because I never tell people that I'm a director, and I don't know why that is. But I talk to people about learning the art of humble bragging. And that is, you can remain humble, but you need to talk about your accomplishments and your achievements and be proud of them. And I've sat in the room where people have been talking about my work or our work, and I've never said, well, actually, hang on a minute, that's my work. And that is a barrier that we need to overcome. But more and more, I've recognised that it's important that we talk about, that we value the work and that we value what we bring. So the art of humble bragging is saying, I'm a director, I do this, I lead that, I champion this, I've written that. Have your Q code for your publication on every single presentation that you do, Meera.
Yes.
Ready.
Okay.
And own it.
Yes.
Because somebody else out there
We'll own it.
will own it and they value it.
Yeah.
And we all value you and we value each other. So learn the art of humble bragging and just say, this is who I am.
A humble brag, I think, has got to go down in your books as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the other things I would say is use your physicality.
Yeah.
And use the taking things in different directions. So sometimes you need to be sitting forward, and I want to come in here. And if they're not letting you in, you need to find an in, and you need to sort of, if Carol is taking, if a white person called Carol, but if they're sort of taking the kind of praise for something you've done, then you come in and you say, Carol, I'm really pleased that you've read my survey, and I'm so glad that we can take that further by doing this. So you're not absolutely saying you can't do that because that was me. So there's just ways of kind of, and you've got to kind of, I mean, I've kind of faked it to make it, if you like. I mean, I get very nervous before I speak to people, but I'm sure you probably don't think I do, but I do. And you just gotta go with it and be confident, and you will.
And put it in writing. Write an email and send it to your team manager, your director, whoever, to say, this is the situation, but I think I've got a solution, and this is what I think it should be. Believe me, they will thank you for it. I welcome that. I want people to tell me that, because as a leader, sometimes you feel that all the solutions are on your shoulders. And as a compassionate leader, we want to hear from our team members. So I welcome people contacting me and saying, Tricia, that situation, that thing there that you're perhaps not struggling with, or perhaps you are struggling with, I think I've got a solution. And that's why we work in changing the culture within organisations, so that leaders are open to hear from team members.
And bring your global leadership. All of those had analysis in, critical analysis in. So bring them in, and actually, white colleagues might like to hear about different ways of thinking. Who knows?
Right. I need to stop here, but if you've got any more questions, please in the break time, come and ask. And but we do need to stop it now. This was really great. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for the question.
So now we've got a break until 11:50. For those online, go and grab a cup of coffee. We do the same, go and have a comfort break. Afterwards, we've got 2 workshops, one of which we will do online. That will remain in this room, and otherwise we will show you which the other room. So in this room, we will look at the induction standards and the work that's been done, and we'll be broadcasting that, and the other one.
Have a great day.